Friday we began the Mamar Shabbos Pashas Vayera Chof Marchesh Van Tovshin Yud Gimel. Mamar Vehu Oimeid. We are on page Chof Tes, in the middle of the first paragraph, in the middle of Oimeid. 4 lines from the top. The line starts with the Rosh Hashanah with the acronym Shehu Inyan, and we're at the full stop. Will be Yeser. The Rebbe is discussing here the idea of Avraham Avinu, the story told in Pashas Vayera of the angels coming to visit Avraham, and he sat them under a tree. He was standing over them to serve them, and they ate. The Rebbe asked, what's the connection between Avraham Avinu standing over them and them eating? And did they in fact eat? Did they eat, or did they seem to be eating? He brought the different opinions. But it seems that from the emphasis that the pasuk emphasizes that they ate and the eating took place through the fact that Avraham Avinu was standing over them, that there's some great virtue in this idea of the angels eating. So the Rebbe began in chapter 2, Oimeid, to explain this based first of all by prefacing the concept which is brought in the Gemara and the Talmud, that there are 2 types of eating. There is human consumption, or there's the Mizbeach consumption, the consumption of the altar, upon which korbanos, sacrificial offerings, were brought. And there's human consumption. In other words, when it comes to a korban, there are 2 types of consumption. One is that which is consumed on the Mizbeach through the fire, which is called Achila. And then there is consumption of the Kohen. The Kohen had to eat certain korbanos, the Kohen had to eat certain parts of the korban. So the Rebbe said, and you actually learn this from a pasuk in connection to pigul. Pigul is when a person has when he brings the korban, the person intends to eat it after its ascribed time. That makes the korban invalid. It invalidates the korban. It's a machshavas chutz lizmanoi, right? So we learn it from that pasuk. It's over there. It says v'him hey ochel yei ochel. Twice, 2 types of achila. So the Gemara learns, I explained it last year, I don't want to go into it right now, but from the same verse, you learn that the Chachamim learn that there are 2 types of consumption. The consumption of the altar and the consumption of the Kohanim. So in other words, the fact that you learn them from one verse, you compare them. Says the Rebbe, how could you compare them? It would appear that that the altar's consumption is far greater than than human consumption. The altar's consumption is a spiritual idea of the korban being consumed above, by Hashem, so to speak, whatever that means, right? But it's a consumption which is greater than than human consumption. So how do you compare the 2? That's where we're up to. So 4 lines from the top on page Chavtes, by the full stop. And move on. This is even more not understood. In other words, up until now, the Rebbe took the natural position that the Mizbeach's consumption is greater than than human consumption. The Rebbe says, but really it's even more not understood, because we find that there is a virtue within the human consumption element of a korban, right? Over and above the Mizbeach consumption element of the korban. Where do we find that? Kemaimer, as the Gemara says, Im Psachim, Koyanim Oichlim, Ubaalim Ischaprim. Right? It says over there concerning the, I think it was in the Shivas Yemei Miluim, in the 7 days of consecration of the Mishkan. So over there it says, a pasuk, they should eat Eis Asher Kupar Bohem, that through which they were atoned. So the bottom line is, the Gemara says over there that the Kohanim eat. And through the Kohanim eating the part of the Korban Chatos, the sin offering, Ubaalim Ischaprim. And what happens? The person that brought the Korban is atoned. In other words, the atonement comes about through what? Through which element of the Korban? Through the consumption of the Kohanim. V'hainu, which means, Shachilas Kohanim, that the consumption of the Kohanim, Shehi Achilas Adam, which is human consumption, Pa'elas Mashlei Pa'al Achilas Mizbeach. That effectuates, that brings about that which the Mizbeach's consumption, the altar's consumption, didn't bring about. Because as mentioned, how does the kapara come about? How does the atonement come about? Through which element of the korban? Through the kohenim's consumption. Any movement is not understood. For the consumption of the altar, is the idea of offering sacrificial offerings. Concerning which it says in the Zohar that what is the inner meaning, the inner content, the inner element, the deeper element behind what? Within bringing a physical offering. The Zohar says, Rozo the Kurban, the secret of the Korban, Oila ad Rozo the Insof, rises up until the secret of the Insof, to the very highest levels of Hashem's infinity. So what does it say? Rozo the Kurban. Right? The secret of the Korban. What is that? That is bringing the Korban on the Mizbeach. So ve'echav shaleman, how could we say she'achilas odom, that human consumption tiyah should be l'mayla yeser, higher, greater, far greater than what? Me'akravas ha'karbanos, than actually bringing the korban and offering it onto the altar. Says the Rebbe like this, chapter 3. Ubir ha'inyan, to explain this idea, the hinei. So the Rebbe goes on and describes the different elements of the korban. Inyan ha'karbonasu, what is the concept of a korban? She'ikrivu behema gashmis, that one offered a physical animal, al gabi hamizbeach, upon the altar, v'nichlalas be'eshel ha'mayla, and it becomes consumed in the fire from above. Because we know the Gemara says that on the mizbeach there was a fire that came down from Shamayim, right? And then the Gemara says that even though there was a fire that was there from Shamayim, mitzvah lahavim in it was a mitzvah what, to bring a fire from below. That the people should bring the atzam erocha, right, the wood and so on and so forth. So Chazal say that the fire that came from above was b'chinas arya de ochal korbanin. It looked like a lion. It's the idea of a lion that eats or consumes the korbanos. What is that in the spiritual sense? How does what's the spiritual dynamic of a korban? How does it work? V'hainu. Sha'behema nichlalas b'pnei sheir. We know that in the celestial throne, right? In the Merkava ha'Elyona, there is the pnei aryeh, pnei sheir, pnei nesher, and pnei adam, right? The different elements of the celestial throne. These are all spiritual divine levels. So one is called pnei sheir, the face of the ox. Beruch nisenyanim. Right? So the way it works is like this. A behema, a korban of the behema, was an animal, right? Let's call it an ox. So the physical ox is what? Nichlelis was consumed and goes up and becomes included and subsumed b'pnei sheir. In this aspect, the spiritual aspect called pnei sheir, the face of the ox. By the day pnei sheir, through being consumed and subsumed within pnei sheir, in nichlelis it becomes subsumed higher than that b'pnei arya, into the pnei arya aspect, the lion element. This is the idea of what? The lion that consumes the korban. What is the lion in the spiritual sense that consumes the korban? In spheres, right? In the celestial attributes. What are we talking about? Shehu bechinas malchus datzilus moker habya. Arya, the ochel korbanin, the lion that consumes the korban, is a reference to malchus of atzilus, the divine attribute known as malchus of atzilus. But malchus of atzilus, how? In malchus of atzilus, you have two aspects to it. You have malchus of atzilus as it is part of atzilus, the higher realm, and then you have malchus of atzilus as it becomes a source for bia, for bri yitzir asiyah, for going down, right? So we're talking about malchus of atzilus, which is a source for bia, for bri yitzir asiyah. Let's go through the Rebbe's description. V'hainu, the halas hakarbanos, in other words, the ascent of karbanos, who is the malchus atzilus mokar de bia, into the level of malchus of atzilus as it is a source for bri yitzir and asiyah. That is the idea of the ariyad ochel korban, the lion that consumes the korban. V'lochein, and therefore, hoisa akravas akrabanos al mizbeach hachitzin shoy bechatzar hamishkan. It's because of this also that the offering of the korban took place where? On the exterior altar, which stood where? In the courtyard of the Mishkan. And the Rebbe goes on and describes the hinei bebeis hamikdash Mishkan for in the Beis Hamikdash in the temple, and so too in the temporary temple that Yidden had in the desert. Hayu Gimel Dir Yurim. There were 3 sections. Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. Oil Oimeid, in other words, the Heichal, the chamber, the main chamber of the Mishkan. The Chatzar Oil Oimeid, and the courtyard that surrounded the Oil Oimeid. Why these 3 sections? Says the Zohar, Keneged Tlas Almin. This corresponds to the 3 worlds. Which 3 worlds? He's going to explain in a minute. Shem Gimel Madreges Klolium, which are generally 3 levels, 3 general levels. The infinite worlds, which are beyond the realm of Atzilus. Then the next one is the realm of Atzilus. And the realms of Bri, Yitzir, and Asiyah. So these 3 compartments, each one of these compartments corresponded to another level. The Kodesh HaKadoshim Mechuven Naged Elam Yisrael Shalifnei Atzilus. The Holy of Holies is aligned opposite the infinite worlds that are beyond Atzilus, the highest realms. And the main chamber of the Mishkan is aligned opposite what? The realm of Atzilus. And the rest of the territory of the courtyard of the Mishkan, that corresponds to what? To the worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. And where did we bring the carbon? We know that in the Mishkan you had 2 karbanos, right? We had 2. One was the Mizbeach HaPnimi that stood inside the internal altar, upon which what was offered? The Ketores, the incense. And then you have the Mizbeach HaChitzim, the exterior altar, upon which were offered what? The karbanos. Which stood where? The exterior altar in the courtyard of the Mishkan. Why is that? Because within the courtyard, the Mizbeach of B'chinas Malchus. If the courtyard corresponds to Bri, Yitzir, and Asiyah, the Mizbeach within the courtyard corresponds to Malchus. But which aspect of Malchus? Malchus as it is a mocker to Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah, which means what? As you said before, Malchus of Atzilus. When you say that it's situated in the courtyard of the Mishkan, it means Malchus of Atzilus, as it is, a source for Bri Yitzir Asiyah. Meaning to say Malchus of Atzilus within Bia. V'hainu. Sha'alos HaKorban. In other words, the ascent of the offering, sacrificial offering, is the Malchus that Atzilus Kameshu B'Bia. In Malchus of Atzilus, as it is within Bia, Bri Yitzir Asiyah. Now, what was the Seder? There was an order to all of this. But Seder B'Zehu, and the order in this is as follows. Through actually offering a physical animal, which is what? Asiyah, right? The physical animal is Asiyah, the lowest of the realms. Nichlel is through the offering that becomes subsumed in this aspect of Pnei Shiur, right? The face of the ox, as it is in the realm of Yitzirah. One realm up from Asiyah. And through the consumption of the chayas, the beasts, meaning to say angels, known as chayas, right? Within the realm of Yitzirah. Through that, what's consumption? We know that Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that when he eats l'shem shamayim, when he eats for the sake of heaven, what happens? The divine spark that is within the food goes up a level. When a person takes a behemoth, which is from a lower level, and consumes it for the purpose of a mitzvah in order to be able to serve Hashem, that causes it to go up a higher level. What does it mean it goes up? The nitzutzes, the sparks of divine energy that are within it, go up, rise up. Similarly, when you bring a korban, so the act of bringing the korban, which is a mitzvah, causes the divine sparks, as it were, that were within the korban to go up to Elam HaYetzirah, where specifically? To Pnei Shiur in Elam HaYetzirah. And in turn, in Yetzirah, in Pnei Shiur, the chayos, the angels, as it were, eat or consume, take in this divine spark, and that in turn causes it to go up another level. Let's just go through the stages.
Just hang on a second. The outer courtyard correspond to 3 different worlds. Are there manifestations within the outer courtyard of those 3 different worlds? And how does it work in terms of them moving up? Because it's all movement is taking place in the outer courtyard at the moment, isn't it?
Yes. Let's see how the Rebbe goes through Asiyah up to Atzilus. The Rebbe doesn't go into, if I remember correctly, the Rebbe doesn't go into the various nuances in that much detail. But let's just go along with it for a minute. Through the fact that the angels in Yetzirah consume the korban as it is in the world of Yetzirah, in the realm of Yetzirah, that causes it to go up another level. To where? To the realm of Bria. And through the refinement, the additional refinement, right? Each one of these is a process of birur, right? Distillation and refinement. Through that, that causes it to rise up to where? To the level of Malchus of Atzilus, as it is in Bria Yetzirah Asiyah. Now, the Rebbe goes into more detail. What are these ascents? And how does it work? The idea is as follows. The root of physical things, they come from the breaking, the shattering of the vessels from the world of chaos. Right? Now what happens to these sparks? We know the idea, that 288 sparks fell, and the idea is to refine them and to lift them. That's what we do. That's what we do throughout the process of what? Of the world's existence. Now, in this process of refining the sparks that are within physical matter, that need to be refined and lifted, so to speak, there are two types of refinement, two types of distillation. Birur shemamayla lamata. There is a birur, a refinement that takes place from above to below, meaning to say that happens, that Hashem makes, so to speak, a birur that is performed by Hashem. Or birur shemamata lamayla. And then there is a refinement that takes place from below to above, meaning to say, through man, through us. What's the idea of the birur shemamata lamayla? Shemamayla lamata from above. Habirur shemamayla lamata, the refinement that is from above to below, who, top of page lamed, means that after the shattering of the vessels, when everything fell wherever it fell, from the most refined aspects of these divine sparks, what came about? The realm of Bria. The rest of the fragments, these divine fragments, fell to the lower level, into Yetzirah. And over there it was refined even further. Imagine it's like a sieve, right? You have different sieves. So the first one is a screen that has very, very fine, what's it called? Sorry? No, on the contrary. It's got very small holes. So the most refined elements remain within that sieve, and the rest fall into the next screen, right? Which has slightly bigger holes, as it were. And over there, the less refined stays there, and what's even less refined from that falls to the next screen, right? So Bri, Yitzir, and Asiyah, the process of birur, of the divine sparks that fell from Shviras HaKelim, go through that process. Right? So the most refined sparks remain in Bria and become part of the reality of Bria. The rest go down, and the most refined of what remains becomes part of the reality of Yetzirah. And the rest goes even further and becomes part of the reality of what? Of Asiyah. The rest falls down to Asiyah. And it goes through another refining process. And it becomes part of what? The world of action, our world. That's the birur that comes milmayla lamata, right? That's the automatic birur, so to speak. But the refinement from below to above, through man serving Hashem in this world of action, the physical world, we perform a refinement in the world of Asiyah, works the other way around. So now the most refined element through our birur, through the human refinement, that goes up to the realm of Yetzirah. And then over there, there's another birur that takes place in the world of Yetzirah. Again, right? It goes up a higher ascent, another level, and becomes Elam Abriya. So, and through the refinement in Bria, the most refined goes up to where? To the level of Malchus of Atzilus. Why do we need these dual processes of refinement? There is a refinement right now, Ma'ila Lamata, right? What's the purpose of the process of Birur Lamata Lamaila? Why do you need this additional Birur? What does the human Birur accomplish over and above the birur that's accomplished from above to below. Says the Rebbe. The idea is this. Although built in within creation, there is already the refinement from above to below, that which is associated to each and every world, as the Rebbe just described. Nonetheless, there needs to be the refinement from below to above. Why? Because the refinement from above to below only is attributed to that which is to the interiority of worlds. Because in every level you have the pnimius and you have the chitzenius, the interior aspect and the exterior aspect. So the birur that takes place automatically is only insofar as it's related to what? To the interiority of the worlds. But the exterior aspects of it were not refined through the process of refinement from above to below. That's why there needs to be a second refinement from below to above through man, in order to refine also what? The exterior elements of the worlds. This is the idea of what? The service known as sacrificial offerings. The physical animal becomes subsumed, refined, as it were, in the world of Yitzira, in realm of Yitzira. And through the refinement that takes place in the realm of Yitzira, it becomes subsumed where? In Olam Abriya, in the next world, a higher world. And through the refinement that takes place in Olam Abriya, which is the idea of the lion that consumes the carbon that was mentioned before, through that, Malchus ascends to Atzilus. Meaning to say what? Malchus, as it's drawn down into Bria, Tzira Asiyah, ascends back to where? To Atzilus. Now what happens? What's the next step? Oh, so here there's a little change in the system. Lost man, the Malchus, through the lifting of the female waters to Malchus of Atzilus, meaning to say through the initiative from below, that calls forth Nimshach Hamshachas Mad. That calls forth a response from above, the drawing down of the male waters of the Eir Ampin, of the Midas, the celestial levels that are beyond Malchus.
You're going much too far.
I know. But I want to go... One second, because I want to go through what the Rebbe is saying to understand what the process is. Then we can go back and we can discuss it. That's why the consumption that takes place on the Mizbeach, the consumption of the carbon is called the consumption of the Mizbeach, and not the consumption of man. Why? What is man in the spiritual sense? That's a reference to the Midas, the spheres of Atzilus. Right? And the ascent that is accomplished through man, down here below, only goes up to Malchus. And the response from Midas is from above. Okay? This is basically a description of how Kabbalah works. There is the first birur that comes through the initiative from above. Then there's a second birur which comes through the initiative from below. The first birur corresponds to what? To the inner aspects of the world. The second birur corresponds to what? To the exterior aspects of the world. And that exterior birur comes about through whom? Through man. We will go Mitzvah back to it tomorrow, slowly, but at least we have a little framework within which to discuss these various elements.
What is a
Sorry?